So the reason we thought of meeting today is basically to go over the visit of recent Jageshwar Yatra that some of us embarked on, and also to those who could not make it but still were actively pursuing in the mind and through pictures into Jageshwar. I thought we will give a first round of brief as to what happened. So, like all of you know, a large group of people, over 100, we all went to this place, Jageshwar, on the 16th of August last month, and stayed on for 4 nights. The night of 16th, we reached there. We were about 4 buses full and about 2 or 3 cars that came in, and some last minute entries were there, and a couple of people who had registered could not make it in the last minute. These things are expected in such visits. So overall, we ended up about 103 people going. The night of 16th, we reached Jageshwar. As I kept saying, it's a sleepy town. Not much of activity happens there. It's just one street that has certain small dhaba kind of hotels and a temple complex. We all checked in. We were given rooms, and most of the hotels I think we occupied. When I say hotel, I'd like to caution that these are places of a lot of humble origins. People come there for certain reasons, so luxuries are out of the window, but they were decent. There were no complaints from most of the people. So I'll divide this today's 1 hour call in 3 parts. First part, I'll just give a rundown on what the factual aspects of it, going and doing stuff and coming back. Second part, I'll probably talk about what the real spirit of Jageshwar is and what happened there to each one of us. And then the last part, we can open up, and people who want to share their thoughts, who were present there or not present there, can take a brief minute or two and talk about it. That way we can fill in each other. So on the night of 16th, we land, and the next day morning, we all gathered in the temple. We had darshan, and we had taken a priest along with us, who was a part of several homams and yajnams that were done across the country for certain sankalpas and reasons, which was initiated by Guruji. Very close devotees of Guruji also had come along. So we did something called Rudra Homam on the 17th morning. On 18th morning, we did Chandi Homam. So Homam, as all of you know, it's a campfire kind of a setup where there is fire, and around the fire, people sit and they do puja. At a 50,000 feet level, that's what happens. Rudra Homam and Chandi Homam on day 1 and day 2. And then we visited Vriddha Jageshwar, which is about half hour upwards of Jageshwar. There is another temple, very ancient. It's a Shivlinga again. And we performed Rudrabhishekam there. Some people meditated, some people walked around, but everybody had common ground. That was to get a darshan of the holy peaks, of several holy peaks. We call it the Kailash complex. And then on day 3 also we went back to Vriddha Jageshwar. This time we spent a little more time than the day 2. And the following morning, which was the 21st of August, which also coincided with Guruji's Nakshatram, which is significant because every month that day, several people across the globe do some special pujas to him and kind of remember his sankalpas and take it forward. It happened to be Revati Nakshatram on the 21st, and we went to Gurusthan inside the temple complex, and we prayed to him. And the previous evening, there was an elaborate Aarti and Abhishekam done to Guruji. Not all the Namakam Chamakam, not the entirety, but we employed the priests of Jageshwar and they helped us with a few Anuvakas of Chamakam and Namakam. Many of us participated in that. So that's how the whole trip was at a high level. If we dig a little deeper, many of us went to the temple several times in the day. Mainly there are four places of interest within the temple complex. One is the Jyotirlinga itself. The other is Mrityunjaya Linga. Third is Kedareshwar Shrine. And the fourth is Pushtimata Temple. So when I say temple, these are reasonably small. Even Pushtimata Temple, you may have seen the photographs. These are pretty small in shape and size. But everybody got great darshan of each of those shrines. In terms of historicity, people say the temple was built between 9th and 11th centuries, after which for a few centuries it went into oblivion because people did not pay much interest to that. And then from 15th century onwards, it again started to gain popularity. When I say popularity, I mean people started looking at it for visit and doing penance. It's never been a tourist place. Locals come there, treat that as a important Shiva Kshetra and do their pujas and go back. The month of Shravan Maas is supposed to be the most popular time of visit of that place from a tourist perspective. Locals around Almora and North India and now even the South, they started to visit. So the Rudra and Chandi Homams that I spoke about, it's basically carried out with certain sankalpas of Guruji. When some of the people got the thought of putting Guruji's idol there and consecrating it within the temple premises, the sankalpa, there were 2 or 3 primary sankalpas because of which that Guruji's idol was set up there. The first one was the revival and upkeep of Sanatana Dharma. Second was to take Bharat back to its Guru Sthan for the rest of the world. Bharat has been the Guru for every other country for a long time from a spiritual perspective, not economics and material nature. But somewhere it lost ground because of several reasons, which we will not get into. But revival of Bharat, putting back Bharat on the map of spirituality, being the leader and the Guru for rest of the nations, that was one of the second sankalpa. Third sankalpa was anybody interested in the path of yoga sadhana, realization of God through yoga, they should get primary benefit. Anybody interested in tapas and penance and yoga, they should get guided from that place. This was the third sankalpa with which Guruji's idol was set up in April 2017. And after that, we have seen a lot of changes happening to individuals and also to India as such. Very clear changes we are observing whatever is happening in India today. So it was more like a retaking those sankalpas and doing those yagnas and homams to ensure the fire is continued for a long time. Coming to Vruddha Jageshwar, as I mentioned before going to Jageshwar, it's a place where a lot of penance has been done by several yogis, mahayogis, siddhas, you name it, and they have been there. And it's also a place where the legend says that Rudra landed on earth the first time. There is a specific spot in Vruddha Jageshwar where some of us spent time. It's behind the main temple. A third key thing there is the darshan of the Kailash complex, which has several holy peaks like Devi and Om Parvat and Trishul and all those things. So it's about 150 to 200 miles distance from Vruddha Jageshwar, but it's very close. The days we went, it was raining and it was pretty foggy and clouded. So visibility was maybe 2 miles or 3 miles, sometimes less than that also. And these peaks were about 200 miles away. So, but interestingly, I got the feedback that some people could see some peaks. So that's an aspect of realization. I heard from some that they actually could see Kailash. Some said they could see Panchashul. Some said they could see the peaks of Nanda Devi, like that. So the difference between seeing and getting a darshan, I wanted to define once again. What eyes can see, the consciousness may or may not pick up. What consciousness can experience, eyes may or may not pick up. This is a clear distinction in spirituality. That's why several times we hear from gurus of various levels. They keep saying, shut the senses, close the mind, disown the mind, you're not the mind, you're not the eyes. Even Shankaracharya said that, right? So why are they saying that? Because what eyes can see can probably deceive you. They are ephemeral, they are temporary in nature, they are passing. But what consciousness experiences is permanent. Now, the word sight is connected to seeing, and seeing is done with eyes. The word darshan in spirituality is an aspect of your deep consciousness. So there is an individual consciousness that all of us carry, and then there is a universal consciousness. Guru is in a state of universal consciousness. As far as Kailash is concerned, Kailash has a certain spirit. It does not. So I was mentioning about Kailash. Maybe it's not too much of a digression if I speak a little about that. So this Kailash Parvat that we see, the Mount Kailash that we see from Jageshwar or Mansarovar, it is a replica of the Kailash Loka. Kailash Loka is extremely far away from Earth. It is not reachable by in the physical matter. It is very, very, very far away. And it is somebody who is able to merge into Shiva and Rudra, and at that kind of a upper stage, one can probably experience some of it. So since it is so far away and humans are on Earth, and it is difficult to reach that stage I'm talking about 1 in a billion probably able to experience 1% of Kailash Loka sitting on Earth. That is the rarity. But God has made it convenient for us to pray to Kailash and experience the bliss of Kailash right here. And that's His grace. That Kailash, Mount Kailash that we see is a kind of a replica of the Kailash Loka. And they say that there are beings inside and apart from gods and goddesses, and a lot of highly evolved, finished yogis are there and they are doing whatever they're doing. But to get a vision of the Kailash Parvat from outside is the best thing that can happen to a human being in terms of his spiritual evolution. Now, is darshan what we see or what the consciousness experiences? The answer to that is latter. What the consciousness experiences when eyes are fixated towards the direction of Kailash is called darshan. So all that we could do, we can do, we should do, we need to do is to show up in a place like Vriddha Jageshwar, face Kailash and chant Panchakshari, Om Namah Shiva. That is all one is able to do. Ability is that only. After that, they connect with the spirit of Kailash, which is the consciousness of Kailash, definitely happens with the consciousness of the individual. Right? That is called a darshan. Darshan is not what I see. Darshan is what the consciousness experiences with the consciousness of the truth called Kailash. So it can be erroneous to say that Kailash is a mountain. It is depleting its value. We should never call it Kailash mountain or Mount Kailash, but we should just call it Kailash. Kailash is the spirit of Shiva. So this experience of connect with the consciousness of the individual and with that of Kailash has happened to all the 103 people that showed up there. So net, I cannot say anything beyond this because this is the ultimate thing I can say. I'll keep saying, but this is the best thing, in my opinion, that has happened to everyone. Now, some people, what has happened inside the consciousness, some people have experienced in the mind also, and others have not, and it doesn't matter. What mind is experiencing, what mind is saying or thinking, need not be the same as what consciousness is experiencing. Why is there a disparity? Why is there that mind is not able to understand what consciousness is going through? That's because of the concept of samskaras that are blocking between consciousness and the mind. So for a person whose samskaras are extremely dominant, for example, extreme fears, extreme desires, extreme any kind of extremities, either likes or dislikes, that can become a blockage. So because of that reason, the mind is not able to understand what consciousness is experienced. But consciousness definitely has experience. There is no second thoughts about that. When will the mind realize this? This will happen over a period of time. As an example, so as the samskaras weaken, as the person becomes more and more at peace with himself, the mind is able to understand what consciousness is going through. That's how it happens. So for some people, they could understand what the deep consciousness is going through in their mind and analyze and be at peace with that. Some people could not see this. But darshan, as defined earlier, has happened to all the people who have gone there, because everybody came with devotion, everybody came with bhakti, everybody came with an expectation, everybody came with a desire. And this unity of devotion towards God has given them that darshan. And that's the best experience that I've had, that I was a part of these 103 people who visited and had that great darshan. So now I can, what else did we do in Jageshwar? We had nice parathas, we had nice noodles and Maggi. The people of the place are extremely pleasant. They don't make you feel like guests, they make you feel like one of them. Even the hoteliers or cooks or priests, all of them welcomed us with open arms, and that's in them. I think the mountains make a person more pious and pure. As far as the priests are concerned, one clear distinction I saw. I've seen that in the past also, but I thought I'll bring it out. Is many priests in Jageshwar are sadhakas. They are doing sadhana. They are not just coming there as a job, doing their puja, giving tirtham, and going home and watching TV. They're actually doing sadhana at home, at the temple. It was very visible way back in 2016 when we went the first time, and 15 when we went the first time actually. 2016 was the second time, and this time 2019 when we went back. This is again. So their individual progress of their soul was also very clearly visible. Like all of us, they also go through struggles of ups and downs in sadhana, but priests, when they become sadhakas, it's an interesting observation. Right. Absolutely. So Aarti is talking about, I missed mentioning that, talking about a certain tree in Jageshwar temple complex, which has been there for several thousand years. And it's pretty tall, maybe 900 or 1,000 feet. I don't know. It starts as with one trunk, but becomes two somewhere in between. So it's a huge tree, and some people consider that to be extremely holy. Some others think that it is the darshan of Paramaguru himself in a tree form there. So it is inside the temple complex, and those of you who have seen the pictures or videos, you may have come across this tree. Yeah, people bow down to that tree when they enter. So Aarti is talking about that tree, and of course the entire ambience of Jageshwar is extremely peaceful. Yeah. So basically, again, it's inside the temple complex on a wall. What Guruji mentioned several, maybe 2 decades ago is right behind the wall, outside of the temple, there was a Mahayogi that used to live there, and so there's the kind of history about that yogi and what happened to him and what he did and who his disciples are. All those things are there. So Guruji used to say that that's the first place one should visit after entering the temple, and then look at other places. So that's what some of us did. We used to visit Guru's first and then the other place. And then there now you see Guruji's statue, small statue that's been put up there. Yep. Yeah. Each of those experiences were extremely good. Being in close proximity of the Shivlingas. I mean, Shivlingas everywhere we see, right? There are scores of them in India. But what makes those special is several saints and yogis and mahayogis that you can think of have been to those temples, have prayed exactly in the same spot that you have prayed. So it has its own such significance. Come back from Jageshwar, one thing we should keep in mind is to keep it in our heart. It's not easy to forget the place, but it takes some effort to keep it in the mind and heart for some time. Every day for a few minutes, think of it either by browsing the pictures, looking at the videos, or just plain and simple. Each of you have, let's say, if I were to ask you to list the top 3 or top 5 spots in Jageshwar or with the Jageshwar that appeal to you the most, you will be able to list something. So take the top 2 or top 3, keep them in your mind often, constantly. And remember them just a few seconds a day, few minutes a day is fine too. And whenever you are in some kind of a distress, whenever you're in some kind of a pain or hurt or fear of future or uncertainty or health or anything like that, close your eyes and go back to that place in your mind. And that will help you. And not because of the memory that is lingering in your mind, but because of the power of that place. It can do anything. It can give anything to anyone. So take your mind back to that place and then meditate. Essentially, what I'm saying is, wherever you are located, physically speaking, be in Jageshwar. Physically, you could be located anywhere, but you be in Jageshwar. You, as in the spirit of you, the consciousness of you, should be in Jageshwar, but it still be in Kailash. So this is also, when you continuously do this on a daily basis, this is also sadhana. This is no less than any other spiritual sadhana that each one of us are trying to do. Being there, having a memory of that, constantly remembering with all the five senses. This is where the senses are useful. You can bring back the memory of place by triggering those senses wherever you are physically there. So that's one takeaway that I would recommend to everyone. Second is, when we visit Kailash, we should always say that my journey has finished. When I say journey has finished, it means that you reached the ultimate. There is no other place to go. But we will keep going. We should not have sankalpas that I'll come back here again. Next year, let me plan this. We do that all the time, and that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is, if it is required, they will call, and we will make a plan. If a plan is emerging in somebody's mind, it means that there is a call from that place, from the spirit of Kailash. So you've gone to the best possible place on earth. Now utilize it to the maximum, and it has to translate in a few things. One, your relationships around you need to become more peaceful. You should be able to contribute to others' happiness. You should be able to see others happy. You should have moderation in your expectation. You should, all the good stuff that we spoke about in the last 2 years, all of that. So when you want to do something, think of Jageshwar, think of Kailash, or the favorite spot that you, some people have the favorite spot as Pushti Mata, other temple, or that Paramaguru tree, or the Jageshwar temple, or behind that, or the vision sight that you had of one of the peaks. Keep that. Whenever you are stuck in a difficult situation, think about it and resolve it. It will automatically resolve. It should resolve. So this is the short-term benefit of visiting Jageshwar. Yatra, like I said, is an internal journey. Externally, we might be moving around from place A to place B, like the flights travel. But the journey or yatra is really spiritual in nature, and the ego or attention or shraddha, like Baba says, it should turn inward from outside material aspects. This becomes easy when you visit a kshetra like Jageshwar. So these two things, please remember, and let's continue our sadhana. Let's progress towards Kailash. And whenever there is a call again from there, we'll all gather together and again go there, physically speaking. Well, several yogis took this path to realization. And when you are meditating on Kailash, it should not be huge in front of you. It should be small in front of you, in front of your eyes. It should have a certain optimal distance from the eyesight, and the silhouette should be visible where you can sit and look at it and do dhyana, or look at it, close your eyes and do dhyana. Hence Jageshwar. In Mansarovar, what happens is your physical proximity is to Kailash is very, very less. I mean, you are very close to Kailash, but the mountain, the physical structure of the mountain is so big that it is not very viable for dhyana, right? So that's why a distance has to be kept from the object of truth when you are meditating. That is number one. Number two, as I said, there are several yogis who have come there, and be it Shankaracharya, be it Buddha, be it Sailinga Swami, be it maybe Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, maybe anybody that you can think of who we can call as great human beings or elevated souls or descended souls. or Krishna. Everybody visited that place, Jageshwar and Vruddha Jageshwar. And hence it becomes, I'm not trying to make a comparison between Mansarovar trip and Jageshwar trip, but these are the facts. And the primary fact which remains and which is unbeatable is Parvati Mata did tapas, penance in Vruddha Jageshwar, looking at Kailash, and obtained Shiva as a husband. She did that for 6 years, 6 human years, several centuries ago. So that, and then she actually initiated the parampara of yoga sadhana for Shiva. So that's why, because of these 3 reasons, it has its importance. And the fourth and the biggest for me is Guruji said so. The features of Pushti Mata statue idol that we see was given as a vision to one of the Mahayogis several centuries ago. And he narrated this to a sculptor and they got it done. And the uniqueness, I have mentioned this in the past also, is that her eyes are closed. And her eyeballs are turned towards the heart center, which means she's focused on Anahata Chakra. When she's meditating on Anahata Chakra, she's actually meditating on the pure bright light that we speak about, which is the formless God. And she has a nice smile also around her, which means that she has seen it. When I meditate, I don't have a smile because I have not seen it. The day I see it, I'll also start smiling.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's Pushti Mata. Yeah. Parvati Mata is Pushti Mata. And she, why Pushti Mata? Why not call her just Parvati Mata? The reason is there is a Mrityunjaya Linga there. And the Mrityunjaya is conqueror of death. And Pushti, as I keep saying several times, is the opposite of death. Immortality, conquering death, mukti, moksha, all that Pushti Mata gives. Probably it's Annapurnashtakam or something. But when he was meditating in Vruddha Jageshwar, he could obviously, he's a yogi. So he could not just see the peak of Kailash, but maybe a little bit of, he got a peek inside the Kailash also. So this one statement that Guruji revealed, in that stotra, it says, Kailasachala Kandaralaya Kasipuradiswari. So Kandara means the caves within Kailash. So Annapurna Devi is in one of the caves of Kailash, which is 35 to 40% hollow. So that he had a vision in Vruddha Jageshwar and he came up with that stotra. The priests there are saying that, Shiva is worshipped as Vishnu and Vishnu is worshipped as Shiva in that. And basically it's enough to say that the Nirguna Brahma is being worshipped there. So Vishnu in Shiva, Shiva in Vishnu means that we are talking about, in a way, the Sadashiva, formless God. So Saligramas and the Shivlinga together being worshipped is that significance, where you are not ruling out that temple to be belonging to only Rudra or only Vishnu, but together. So this is the essence of that narration which the priests gave there. But a person who can sit there and do proper dhyana, they can see the fire there, that bright light of fire which Jageshwar is responsible for reducing your past birth karma. Each of the 8 phases of Kailash have their own significance, and the one that is visible from Vruddha Jageshwar is responsible for reduction in karma. So, reduction in samskaras and reduction in karma are the same thing, basically.
Okay. So that more number of
yeah, one time is enough.
Okay.
One visit is enough, but we can keep going. That's not a problem. But the reason I keep saying one visit is enough is because we should not go to a place like Kailash and say, my visit is incomplete. And then we are qualifying the ability of Kailash to cleanse me, right?
Oh, okay.
I know there's a lot of dirt in me, but then Kailash is very powerful, so it is able to cleanse everything. From the time I was ever born in any century or any yuga, till now, whatever karma I accumulated and what I will accumulate in the future, Kailash, one view is enough to get rid of all of that. It is that powerful.
Thank you, sir.
They are also blessed. So what we think in Jageshwar comes true. So we were all thinking about ourselves and Shiva and all of you also, that everything should be good, progressive. And the sankalpas that I mentioned, they are not just for the nation of Bharat, but the individuals also. So spiritual progression definitely will happen to even those who were thinking about Kailash while we were there. That the common connecting cord between US and India and Kailash and now Canada is called Bhakti. That Bhakti was the connecting cord between all of us, and that cord will never be broken, which means that the wealth that each of us are carrying today after coming back from there is being distributed to many others. So what you do with that wealth is again a free will, a choice. You can keep it for future. You can utilize it right now. It's up to you. People who come back from Jageshwar, there is a visible change. I'm saying the change should be visible to the self. To the individual, there should be a visible change. The change has happened deep inside. But for the mind to recognize that and for the spouse to recognize that, it basically takes a little bit of effort.
My question was, is this the effect of the cleansing?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's like closer you go to the sun, the more heat you feel like. It is as simple as that. You go to Kailash and the divinity in you always rises. The fundamental premise of Jageshwar, the name itself says that Jagriti has to happen. Jagriti of what? The Ishvara in you. Jag, Ishwar in you. And those who are practicing yoga and all, that Kundalini change has to come. So, it's okay we were there only 3 nights or 4 nights maybe. But I'm saying let's continue being in Jageshwar wherever we are located. Location now becomes irrelevant. We can be in Jageshwar. Since we have had the opportunity of taking this body there, we use our senses to keep recollecting that place. Again, word of caution, time, the word time, kalam, they say, right? It is very dangerous. It consumes all emotions. It takes away all emotions. So repetition of the memory keeps that emotion alive. So let not time consume Jageshwar in us. It should continue. And the way we do that is by repeatedly thinking about it. A few minutes a day. It's not a big deal. When we are praying to God, close your eyes, finish your prayer, and then go to Jageshwar, visit there, and once you come back.